Throwaways, what is your darkest secret that you want to get off of your chest? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. My dog died in 2010. I haven't gotten another one. It's the longest I've been without a dog in my life. When my family asks why I haven't gotten another dog, I just laugh and tell them that I don't want the expense, the mess, the responsibility, but that's not true. When my dog died, it broke me. It's been over 10 years, and I still miss him, and the real reason I haven't gotten another dog is I don't want to feel the pain of losing him again. I keep that to myself, I guess. I watched someone nearly beat one of my friends to death outside our school. 6 other people jumped in and started kicking his head. The person who he was meant to have a one-on-one with repeatedly beat his temples in. Being around that person or hearing his name snaps me into a red mist. I daydream about repeatedly stabbing him in front of his friends or his family and making sure they know what a prick he was. I almost choked my bully in high school, and ever since to this day, as much as I try to avoid, I can't stop sometimes falling into fantasies on how I would have carried through in actually finishing the job, and I'm afraid it could start evolving into a wish to find him in present day to do it. I was a deadbeat dad. I was unemployed and a stay-at-home dad and had declining mental health already, and my ex gave me about a week to pack my shit and get out with nowhere to go and nothing to fall back on. I went through a pretty significant mental break. I remember the exact second that I cracked in half, and it happened so quickly and completely that there was probably an audible pop from my brain. I was in some kind of dissociative state for well over a year after, slumming it up in a room at my parents' house several hours away. I was just on autopilot and went with the motions. I have no memories whatsoever of that time, and I'm pretty sure the only reason I didn't kill myself was because my mind was just absent from my body and I had minimal control. I don't even remember the divorce a few months later. I found the paperwork in a box well after the fact. I just never went back, reached out, or paid child support. By the time I was lucid again, I was afraid of what I might do to myself if I saw my kid again and they didn't remember me or know who I was. And that feeling just got worse the older they got, and more they would comprehend how shitty I was, so I stayed away. The door to that chapter of my life slammed closed before I really even knew what was happening, and I never really caught back up. And I feel the weight of the guilt and the hurt of that decision every day, but I'm too weak to deal with it, and I'm not going to try and get a kid who doesn't remember to have any type of relationship with the mentally unwell dad that abandoned them. I can't even bring myself to look for them on social media just to see a picture, because I feel like I'm just hanging on by a thread at all times, and I don't know if I could handle seeing the life I left behind and lost. When my kid was 10, they were adopted by their stepdad though, so at least they have a father figure in their life. Reach out. My mom and I used to fight often when I was younger, which only escalated when we moved out of my dad's house. Once, when I was around 13 or 14, she broke down in tears, grabbed a knife, gave it to me, sat on a chair in front of me with her back turned, and told me to stab her and get it over with. Looking back, it feels like a dream, but I remember both of us were crying really hard for hours, feeling raw, and she just sat there, waiting while I kept telling her I didn't want to do it. In high school, I used a notepad to make a little code to open up the .cmd. They had it blocked, and I made the screen so big and convinced the teacher the Matrix had hacked her computer, so she unplugged it and called the principal, LOL. This isn't exactly a deep, dark secret or anything like that, really just stuff I need to get off of my chest. When I was in 8th grade, I made a really good friend. She was probably the best I could have asked for, especially at the time when I was dealing with anxiety and other problems. Several months later, she decided that I wasn't really worth talking to anymore, so she left me a huge message saying why she didn't want to talk to me again. The message said some stuff that was true. I was pretty rude sometimes, but it was always unintentional. Some of the other things she wrote on there were just made up completely. She thought I would talk shit about her behind her back or something. Considering how she was helping me with all of my mental health issues at the time, I had no reason at all to talk shit about her. Anyway, a few months after that, I go back to school. I already knew we went to the same high school. I just thought that since it had been a good 6 or 7 months since it happened, I would be fine. For the first few classes, I never saw her. I thought maybe I got lucky and didn't have any classes with her. Final class of the day rolls around, and there she is. I kept telling myself that everything would be fine and I would be able to get through the day. but the more I thought about it, the higher my heart rate went. I was having my first real anxiety attack or panic attack, whatever you want to call it. It got to the point where I was hyperventilating in the middle of my algebra class. It felt really cold, and I thought I was going to pass out on my first day of high school. I couldn't see her because she sat behind me, but I could still hear her voice. Every time she spoke, I just felt worse and worse. The teacher passed out some cards to us where we had to fill in the prompts. One of the prompts was the usual, "Tell me something that you would like me to know." I used that to write and say to move me from my seat so I could at least freak out less. When the teacher came around to collect the cards from everyone, I made sure to tell her to read that part. Once she read it, she saw that I was kind of freaking out and breathing pretty heavily and moved me to an empty seat away from her. It definitely helped out, but I still was freaking out a bit. But it was now at a point where I could focus better and figure out what we were supposed to do next. I appreciate the teacher actually doing something when she realized that a student was distressed instead of acting like Stevie Wonder like some teachers out there. I never mentioned the situation to my parents because they were already dealing with my brother who had left for college about a week before. I don't want to grow up. I've graduated and now going to high school. Yeah, I'm very young. I should be happy, but I'm not. I've seen how bad being an adult is, and everyone is changing, life is changing, things aren't staying the same, and I've stopped talking to people, and I don't want to go to high school. I don't want things to change. I know things are going to be different, and people will grow up, and new things are going to happen, but I'm so used to a single routine, talking to the same people every day, and now all that's over. One friend committed suicide during quarantine after I had a very heated argument with him. Then after the suicide, I had another heated argument with a friend that blamed the suicide on me. I can't live with the guilt. I can't live with the pain of knowing that it was my fault and that life is going to be changing a lot more. I should be happy that I'm getting older. I should be happy in general, but I just can't. I just can't force myself to be happy. I just keep forcing myself to change for others that I don't know myself anymore. I seriously need to see a therapist, but I don't want my parents to worry about me. I have a lot of problems I need to solve, but I just can't. It's too hard to do. The only actual thing I can do is avoid them, to avoid life entirely. I've stopped going outside. I've stopped talking to everyone. I barely have gone outside for the past 2 years. I only actually talk to 3 people. I just feel so alone. I want to talk to others, but I can't. No matter how hard I want to do anything, I just can't. I give up immediately and go back to sleep. Sleeping is all I'm good for. I only sleep staying in bed. I'm 14, I'm still young, and I'm supposed to be enjoying my last moments of being young. But how could I enjoy it knowing that it's going to end soon? How could I enjoy it when everything is going to change? I keep telling myself that everything is going to be okay. How long till it isn't okay? How much longer till I can't take the pain and guilt anymore? Everything hurts so fucking much. Life has taken everything from me. I just want to keep sleeping. But even then, I can't fucking sleep. I don't know why, but I just can't sleep. I'm going fucking insane and I can't sleep. I just can't fucking sleep. I want to sleep, but I can't fucking sleep. I was bullied a lot in middle school and beginning of high school. A lot of psychological torment, and by the end of it, my self-esteem and confidence was thoroughly shredded. I was standing behind the main bully on the stairs, and I was contemplating pushing him down the stairs. And I remember fantasizing about seeing him on the floor with his head bleeding and his body lying there limp on the ground, but ultimately decided against it. When I got home that day, my parents mentioned how he was going to be at a party we were going to. His parents were friends with my parents, and I absolutely lost my shit. Needless to say, I'm surprised my parents didn't stick me with a therapist right there on the spot, and it only took me getting in an argument with them a few months later and admitting I attempted suicide multiple times for them to seek a professional. I'm bisexual with an amazing, loyal, but homophobic family. My brothers are the only people I've told this to, not even my friends yet, though they'd still think of me as the same person. This is something new I've discovered with my first experience or opportunity with another man recently. For the sake of the relationship I have with my family, I think it's best to never tell them against my heart's wishes. My earliest memories of my male cousins were them raping me or them touching my lady bits. I tried telling my mom, but she brushed it off. Then I went to the US. My grandpa did me wrong too. Not too long before I went back on the plane to get back to live with my mom, and the rape and shit continued. I confided in my dad about the latest rape when I was about 11 or 12 years old. He told my mom she beat me up real bad because by the time it happened and the time she knew about it, 1 year had passed and I got reprimanded by the cops, called a liar, and a lot of other stuff when I decided to file a complaint against the cousin that last raped me. I never got justice against him, and now I'm too scared to talk about all the other guys that also raped me. Today I'm 23 years old, and my mom still doesn't know that her precious nephews raped me and wonders why I cut ties with her and all her side of the family. I'm a cheater. I've cheated on nearly every partner I've ever had. It's terrible. I'm terrible. I'm never happy with anyone. I try to be better and repent and pray. I'm a shitty person. Okay, not really dark or huge, but I started a controversy about music at my high school. I attended a private Adventist school, and in one of my science classes we would listen to a short Christian song before starting. Students were allowed to request a song for an upcoming week, and one day I requested Awake and Alive by Skillet. If you know the song or band, you probably know where this is going. I could tell after the song that my classmates and teachers didn't really like it, and I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. A week later, I stumbled across a printed email addressed to the principal talking about how a student from a lower grade had heard the song and brought his distaste to his parents. The parents listened to the intro and calling it chilling and demonic, and honestly, I don't blame them. I never said anything about seeing the letter, but I should have, and I regret it. My high school made an announcement that we were going to be more strict on what music was allowed, and while a lot of the students disapproved and tried to protest it, the new guidelines stayed, and that was all my fault. I was sexually abused, and I feel like it's the source of everything wrong with me. I have anger issues. I get very defeatist. Can't keep a job, got injured really badly some time back, and have not been able to get disability, unemployment, etc. because my attention span and executive dysfunction make all the phone calls and forms and papers impossible. Sometimes I just get that kind of pent-up existential anger like teenagers get, but instead of, why am I here? I didn't choose to be born. It's the times when I was abused. Like I'm a shitty comic book hero, and they're my origin story. I'm an artist now as a profession, since I can't get my shit together, and it's all I can do. I hate it now. The one hobby I had, I'm sick of it. I've tried therapy, and my therapist told me I needed a new one, since I was only getting worse. Not long after, I ran out of money anyway, so I couldn't even go even if it was working. Feels like I'm worse off now. Financially, I absolutely am. I look at the people who've made money from crypto and all that shit, and I've absolutely missed every chance I've had. I wish I could go into a coma and skip 10 years of my life and wake up in another city. I want brain damage or amnesia or false memories or something. I busted a fat load into this small, comfy blanket I have and put it on top of the laundry machine so that I could wash it later. A few hours later, my stepmom thinks it's washed, so she takes it and wraps herself up in it when we're watching a movie. It makes me cringe very hard when I think about it. In my early 20s, I was a mistress, female sadist master, except I'm a guy who cross-dressed for the role. I'd meet extremely masochistic people in certain communities online, talk to them over Skype, even sometimes fly out, and help them live out their sexual fantasies for favors. Didn't involve any real sex. Lots of tying up, collars with leashes, crushing with heels, making people eat from dog bowls, telling them they were pieces of shit, telling them to beg, and what was that? I am addressed as Miss S. Now you will be punished. My weapon of choice was a riding crop. Stopped when I got into a serious relationship. Nobody in my life now knows about this. They'd never guess. I've written works of complete fiction and presented them as real stories and have caused some genuine meltdowns. People have shared my work on Twitter, other Reddits, and even BuzzFeed. I've had people try to dox me and fail because the stories aren't real. There have been cases of other people being accused of the people in these shitposts and being doxed. They must be pretty shitty people to be mistaken for me. I've had people try to fight me and end up sending them to random locations in real life. Yeah, they actually go. The part that gets me is just how fucking entertaining it is. I don't feel any remorse, and that rage is real. People react in a way that I've never seen in person. It's like deep down everyone has a pitchfork, they just want to drive through someone's heart. The amount of attention and emotion and effort they expend on a single shitpost is nothing short of an absolute joke. In my previous school, a few of our seniors were smoking some weed, thus they were hiding, although me and my 2 friends were just hanging out and not attending PE, so we happened to see them. We did not make noise as we knew better than to trigger seniors. We were just on the first floor looking at them and chilling when the school security guard caught them, but what the guard did not know was that the smokers were quite strong, and one of the smokers was the boyfriend of the school deputy's daughter. Long story short, the security guard was 1 versus 4, was fired for sexual harassment on the deputy's daughter. Almost a year ago, well, it'll officially be a year in October, I was diagnosed with HSV-2 at 18. I met this guy who at the time I've known him for 4 years. We were very close, inseparable even. We had feelings for one another, but it never moved past that, for personal reasons. One day, the last time I saw him, the 1st of October, I went over to his house. We had consensual sex, and he started acting strange. He asked me, "Have I ever given you something before?" I said, "What do you mean, like an STD?" He said, "Yeah." I was confused, but I just said, "No, why?" Then he brushed it off and said he was just asking. The next day I started feeling itchy, and in general started feeling very weak and weird. I told him about this, and he brushed it off once again. I did too, since I thought it was just a yeast infection. 2 days go by, and I noticed bumps, and I just knew. I was in denial, but I knew what it was. I told him immediately. He went and got tested first, and he lied about his results and his symptoms during, telling me he had no outbreak, when he actually did. His cousin had to tell me he was lying. I eventually got tested and obviously came back positive. Then I told him about my results. He never responded, and then he moved to a different state and never heard from him again. So he knowingly gave me HSV-2 and left me.